Welcome to Lifting the Veil with Terry and Rhonda, a podcast that brings you inside the world of communication from spirits, ghosts, angels, and more. You'll learn about links with the world beyond, spirit beings, and those who are between worlds. Terry and Rhonda have decades of first-hand experience. Please join us for a fascinating voyage. Hi, this is James. I've been really looking forward to today's episode. We get to meet Christine Cassell. In the past, she has been a very focused, factual, logical, and linear thinking person who used those abilities to be very successful in the corporate world. When a friend suggested that she look into Qigong, Christine experienced a medical Qigong treatment, and she'll tell us today how that led to a major life change. We are about to dive into the world of our three energetic bodies and how these can be negatively affected by life events and past life events, such that a medical Qigong practitioner like Christine can locate and remove energetic blocks and regulate your newly free-flowing energy. I am personally looking forward to getting a treatment. But for today, let's listen. Today we have Christine Cassell with us. Christine is a medical Qigong practitioner, and she's been doing this work quite a long time. She's worked along with Terry and Rhonda. We're really excited to have her here. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about what the heck is Qigong anyway?
Medical Qigong is an ancient Chinese medicine practice. It's an energetic practice that is about 4,000 years old. And what we do is we energetically work on your three bodies. And in Qigong, we have three levels of energy fields, or our three energetic bodies. The first is called Jing, which is your physical body. And then about 12 to 14 inches out from that is what we call your Qi field, which is your emotional field. And then beyond that, another foot or so out is your Shen field, which is your connection with the universe or the divine, whatever that means to you. And from the moment that we're born, we're pelted with what we call pathogens. And these fields, we call them Weiji fields, are supposed to be nice and fluffy and almost like balloons in lighter and ever-expanding fields around you that protect you from environmental, physical, and emotional pathogens. So what happens is, say, you see your parents fight, or you fall off your bike, or you live next to a factory. These pathogens work through these energetic fields or these Weiji fields, and they settle in bone and tissue in your body. So my job is to come in and scan your body and feel through my training. I'm trained to feel where these divots or heat are in your body, and also through talking to you, asking you, where do you have muscular pain? Do you have indigestion? How are you sleeping? And that gives me clues as to where these quote-unquote pathogens have settled in your energetic body. And then I go in, you lay on a massage table, face up, fully clothed, and I go in and remove these energetic blocks.
How do you do that?
It looks a little bit odd the first time you come because I do a lot of hand motions to protect myself, protect you, and protect the room, because it is energetic work where our energy fields merge. And then I just scan the body. I take my hands, palms down, and I scan your body. And you'll see me go in when I find something and actually grab it, pull it away from the body, and throw it to my side where I've created a vortex that transmutes that energy.
Okay.
So going in means not actually into their body, but into their energy field.
Into their energy fields. That's correct. And we use the same acupressure points and meridians that acupuncturists use. It is a Chinese-based medicine. So if you look at an acupuncture chart, those are the same meridians that we use to go in and clear the fields. We can work on emotional trauma, physical trauma, sometimes past life issues come up. So it's quite fascinating. And no treatments are the same, no two treatments. So when we go in, the same person can have a different experience each time they come in, as we kind of peel back the layers and get into what ails them, if you will.
You mentioned that you go in and you scan the body with your hands, much like I do with Reiki too. Mm-hmm. And you check for the heat, and that would be inflammation then. You're spotting inflammation.
It would be inflammation. It could be a couple of things. Mm-hmm. Heat can just be what we call excess in energetic medicine. Mm-hmm. It's where, for example, if I feel a lot of heat in the heart area, It just means you have a lot of heart fire, along with, there's 5 organs that we work on, and each organ has an element, an earth element that attached to it. So heart is fire. So if people are overly anxious or excitable, then we say in Chinese medicine they have excess fire in their heart, and then we just clear that energy.
Okay.
So it may or may not be inflammation, but typically if I feel a joint that's hot, it is inflammation.
Right.
Yep.
Interesting.
How did you learn how to do this?
7 years ago, I discovered a medical Qigong school right in here in Gettysburg. I was surprised to find it. It's the East Coast Institute of Medical Qigong. It's run by Ted O'Brien, who's an acupuncturist. And it's interesting how I found Qigong. It was actually through a reading with Terry. I had gone in to talk to a friend who had passed, a dear friend of mine, and I really missed her, so I made an appointment with Terry. And my friend came through, and she told me I needed to do Qigong. I did not know what Qigong was. I thought it was like a cocktail, like a Mai Tai, or it sounded good, And I said, do I eat it? Do I drink it? What do I do with it?
You're available.
Right.
Bring
So
it on.
totally a layperson and did not understand what it was. And to make a very long story short, I found Ted O'Brien in Gettysburg, had a couple of Qigong treatments myself because I wanted to understand what it was and how does it feel. And I was just blown away by how good I felt after those treatments. I just felt clarity and light and just felt really good. So he told me he has this school, and it's a 3-year program. So your first year is the practitioner level, second year is therapist level, and then third year is master level. My initial intent was only to do practitioner level to learn about the energetic body, because I was just so fascinated by why does this even work? What is he doing and how did we get here? So at the end of the practitioner course, you have to treat 30 people. That's part of your training to get your certificate. So you learn how to scan, you learn about the energetic body, you learn how to treat. And I've just been treating people ever since then. As it turns out, I love it. I had a bit of a talent for it, and I kept having people come back, and then word of mouth. I don't really advertise. September of last year, I left my corporate job, and I'm now doing this full time. So,
oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So it's been great.
Let me get back to when you had your first
Yes.
Qigong treatment. When you went in there, did you feel bad, or did you have any illness or problem that you were addressing?
I did, actually. I was...
Do you mind sharing with us?
Not at all. Not at all. I did. I had acid reflux. I had a lot of indigestion, digestion problems. I was having trouble sleeping at night, dealing with some anxiety. And I was going through my regular Western doctor, and I was looking at my 3rd prescription to kind of help deal with all these issues. And he said, "Oh, I've got another pill for that." And finally I said, enough. Around that time is when I started, I worked with Terry and I found out about Qigong. And so I just embraced it 100%. So when I went into TED, I had these underlying conditions. We started working on them. And within 6 months, everything resolved. I was off of my medications. Now, I do have to say a caveat about that, because there is a component of self-care that comes into this. So there's the medical Qigong treatment that I do when you're on the table.
Right.
But in addition to that, I give you what we call prescriptions or exercises. Most people are familiar with Tai Chi. You see the people on the beach doing the hand movements and the swaying and the salute the sun, and most people are familiar with that. Very similar Qigong exercises. You can string them together and come up with a quote-unquote prescription. So I did an hour of that every day for about 6 months to a year. And in addition to my Qigong treatments, that cleared up my symptoms.
Ideally, the client really needs to participate for the best result.
For the optimum result. Plenty of people I treat, I give them prescriptions. They sometimes do them, sometimes don't. We always see improvement, but if you really are very serious and want to power out of wherever you are, whether it be emotional, physical trauma, or symptoms, if you layer in these prescriptions or the self-care, even if it's 15, 20 minutes a day, it really pumps it up and helps.
Yeah, it's putting your energy towards it too. And I'm a firm believer in that. I mean, you have to believe in your treatment. Even in medicine, if you don't believe that it's going to help you, it's not going to, because your body's going to reject it.
That's exactly right. And there are some people I get on the table and they're just not there. right? They just, and it's not a good or bad thing. It's just energetically or spiritually, they're not ready to be open and receive what Qigong has to offer, and that's fine. No judgments, and sometimes they'll come back another time, or they'll explore other avenues. Typically, by the time people find me, they've explored a lot of different avenues in conventional medicine, and they are just ready. They tell me, I'm tired of the prescriptions. I'm tired of chasing these symptoms. Please help me find the underlying cause. And a lot of times it is energetic.
We did an interview with an acupuncturist, and he said that he's always the last one that people go to. They've tried everything else, and then they go to him. And I think it's what you're saying, the same thing.
That's right. It's the same concept. Is a lot of times, and I support what people do with Western medicine. I'm not anti-Western medicine at all. But a lot of times you're treating symptoms. You're not treating the underlying cause. It can be nutritional. It can be energetic. It can be lifestyle. There's a lot of things that culminate into energetic blockages. And those are all the kind of things that we talk about.
I was going to say, you address all those different things?
We talk about it.
Okay.
We talk about it. I'm not a nutritionist. However, nutrition plays a large piece of the healing process. So I encourage people to do their own research. And most people know. Most people know a Twinkie and a soda for breakfast isn't ideal. So it's those kind of extremes that we talk about and kind of get people back on a good track.
Well, and also diet, I'm a firm believer, because I too have the acid reflux thing, and I got rid of it with the diet and the gallbladder and that. The wrong kinds of foods will lower your inner vibrations, and that's not a good thing.
That's right.
I've found that out. Now, everybody wants a Twinkie once in a while, or a Coke, or a piece of cake or something like that. It just can't be your main staple. You have to put fuel in your body.
That's right.
And working it out, like with your prescriptions, with the Qigong movements and stuff that they can do. You got to move your body out and wring out the bad stuff.
You're spot on, Rhonda. That's exactly, when we teach the Qigong, that's exactly what we say. Think of a washcloth and you're wringing. You're wringing, like a soapy washcloth, and then you wring it, and all of that residue goes out of the washcloth. And then you fill it back up and you wring it again. And that's exactly what we're doing when we do these exercises.
Is this energy that you are removing from the body? When you say you're wringing out something's getting wrung out.
It's what we call turbid qi.
Okay.
Turbid. So you want the qi to be light and fluffy, and qi is that vital force that runs through everyone's body. It's energy, and it can get blocked. One of the concepts in Qigong is where qi flows, blood flows, and vice versa. Blood and qi have a very synergistic relationship. So if your qi is blocked, blood can't flow, and you're not getting the nutrition to your body the way you need to through your circulatory system.
Okay.
And it also causes residue to build up. So that's where you get your blockages. So qi propels blood, blood nourishes qi. So it's very synergistic. So you have to keep that flow going. So what we're pulling out is the turbidity, or the blockages, the accumulation of this thick, heavier qi that no longer serves you. We need to get rid of that.
It's sort of like how the heart works. It pumps the blood in and pushes it back out.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And are you able to determine whether there's any of that turbid qi as you're doing an analysis, passing your hands or whatever over the body?
Yes, I am. Your sensitivity develops over time.
Okay.
And primarily I'll feel either heat. It'll be almost like steam, like running your hand over like a steaming pot, or it'll actually be pinpricks. Like some people are so charged in that area that it's like, ow. It's actually like pinpricks on your hand. You're like, okay, there's a lot of stagnation there.
That's usually what I feel when I do healing work, is the pinpricks.
Yeah.
We felt those too in investigations.
Yeah.
They'll stick you around the ankles and stuff. That's the way they do me anyway.
Well, you and Terry and Rhonda, you always talk about when you're doing a reading of someone, and someone maybe died of a stomach cancer or something like that, you'll have pain in your stomach. I think that is so fascinating that the practitioner feels pain related to the client or the person you're reading, their issues, or even those of people that have passed on. It's very, very interesting.
Well, and that's being an empath.
Okay.
And when you become a Qigong or Reiki or whatever kind of spiritual healing or energetic healing, even if you're not an empath, I think you can become one when you go through the training.
You do. Yeah, you can be trained to pick this up. Now, some people are more energetically sensitive, and it'll come a little bit easier. One of the fun things over time, so I've been doing this about 7 years, over time, your hands just start moving to where they need to go. And I've literally had, there's a lot of spirit guides that help me, part of what I call my hookup. So when I protect the room and protect the patient, protect myself, I call in my spirit guides, my helpers. And I literally can feel them move my hand at times. Like I'll be going to do my routine. So, there's very specific protocol that we do every time. But in the middle of this protocol, I'll feel my hand go, nope, over here, and I can feel my hand moving, and sure enough, there'll be some big release, and and that in that particular moment, that's where I need to be to help that person release that, whatever it is.
When you told about that, I felt this strong emotion come over me, just the idea that for those people who have heard about spirit guides and are still struggling with that concept of it, that you, as a practitioner, you didn't know this was going to happen, right?
I did not.
Your hand was going to move where it moved.
I did not. As I shared with you in the very beginning, 7 years ago, I didn't even know what Qigong was.
Right.
I had done a little bit of spirit work with Terry, in different spirit workshops. And this has just opened a whole new world for me. And there is a certain sense of letting go and having faith that the information that's coming in is for everybody's higher good. And at first I was a little hesitant. I was thinking, am I making this up? Am I imagining this?
Sure, I think we all do that.
Yeah. And at some point, it was funny because I heard a message loud and clear, because I withheld some information because I thought this sounds too hokey, or this person's going to think this is too woo-woo. And I heard loud and clear after the client left, this isn't yours to keep.
Oh.
I'm not telling you this for your entertainment. You need to push this through and help this person become aware and conscious of this. This is why I'm telling you this. So ever since then, I respect it. I'm reverent about it. If I get information, I share it. And then the person can do what they want with it. If they think it's out there or it's too woo-woo, then that's okay. But that's the message I was given, and that's my job. Right, is to pass that along.
I have a question for you now. Like I said, I am Reiki. Reiki, the energy goes through me into the client. But how does it work with you? And also, because of that, I don't have to ground myself because the energy doesn't stay in me. Except if I'm training people and then I attune them, then I have to ground myself. But how does that work for you? Do you have to ground yourself? Does energy stay in you? Or also, how does it work? Does the energy go through you, or how does that work?
Yes, we do grounding. So there's the whole first year you learn how to ground your body and prepare yourself for the treatments. So it's called the 1 through 10 protocol. And you do this meditation where you root yourself to energy, the earth energy, you root yourself to the divine energy, you protect yourself, you protect the client, you protect the room. And the energy is moving through you, but not, you're emitting chi, but it's all the divine. It's all the energy coming from the divine and the earth, I should say.
Oh, so you're using both.
You're using both. You're
Gotcha.
pulling from earth energy, you're pulling from divine energy. You're using both of those in the treatment. One thing that is unique about Qigong, or special about Qigong, is we are taught to cultivate into what we call lower dantian, which is an energy space right below the...
Could you say that again, please?
Lower dantian, dantian.
Okay,
lower
thank you.
dantian, sure. And we're taught to cultivate into lower dantian because as we become more Shen, right, more spirit-oriented, we have to have that grounding and that energy source in lower dantian to perform, or we become too Shen, right? You become too much in spirit, you become too much in the head and out there. And so we do emit chi, okay? We do emit some of our own energy, and that's why it's so important to cultivate in lower dantian, but both before and after the treatment.
So that's why you have to ground, because you're using some of your energy too. Okay. Yep.
And then the premise behind Qigong is we purge tonify and regulate the body. So my job is to go in and scan, right? I scan and I figure out where these blockages are.
Right.
And then I go in and I purge. So I literally pull it out. You'll see me doing hand motions where I'm grabbing it, pulling it out, and throwing it into a vortex I have beside the bed.
Okay.
And then I tonify, which is where I do the emission. So I come in, I hold my hands over that area, and I emit chi out of my hands, and I bring that area back to homeostasis or back to health, right? Because you've created a void because you've taken something out of it. So you tonify it. And in the very end, the thing I love about Qigong is it's very focused on regulating the client when you're finished. Because if you think about it, there's 5 major areas where I go into work. Okay, there's the 5 yin organs. It's lung, liver, heart, spleen, and kidney.
Okay.
Those are the 5 organs that I work on. So if I'm removing something from one organ and really tonifying another, and you're messing with the plumbing, so to speak, because they're all connected by these meridians.
Right.
So you've got new flow. You've got places where the faucet was too much on, so you're drawing it back, and there's places that were blocked that you've taken the plunger and unblocked it. So now you've got this gusher, right, going through this meridian. So you feel a little wonky, right, because your body is trying to assimilate all this new flow. So in the very end, we regulate, and it gets very quiet in the room, and most people can feel just a gentle shift as we, it's called the microcosmic orbit. We take it from lower down to yen on the patient, okay? And you just create this flow. You create this bubble around the patient, and you just you keep doing it and doing it until you feel like their whole body is in homeostasis. So that's the regulation part. So we purge, tonify, and then regulate the body.
You know, you're moving your hands right now. I'm working it, and I can see sparkles around that area.
Oh, that's so fun! Yeah. People say they can see sparkles in the room. They can see blue light come off the tips of my fingers as I'm working, and
I mean, because you're working, you're balancing, you're grounding, and you're putting energy in. So you've got you're like the magic man here, or the magic woman. You know, balancing and doing all that stuff. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yes, it's very very effective, and I'm still in awe of it. And even after 7 years, when I do it, and I see these people sit up and they're bright and feel better, and I love it.
Christine, did you go on to be a master, or are you just working with the practitioner?
I did do all 3 years. I am now a master medical Qigong practitioner. And yes, I did do all 3 years. As a matter of fact, just this past class that was taught at the Institute, I was actually one of the teachers. I actually taught curriculum. So that was kind of fun. That was my first time teaching, and I really enjoyed it. It's so fun to see the light bulbs go off and help people understand about our energetic world. Because it's here, it's swirling on the underground. It's what propels all of us, and there's so little understanding of our energetic bodies and really how we can not just survive but thrive and release some of these things that are holding us back.
Yeah, Christine and I actually have done work together, and Rhonda and I have done similar work together where I don't go into a trance or anything, but person's on the table, and it's usually when someone has an attachment, like a negative attachment or spirit that's kind of like lodged in their body somewhere. So I'll actually go back in time and find where that happened and what organs it affects or what. And it's funny because the same thing with Rhonda when I do it with her too. It's sort of like I'll tell them to go somewhere and they're already there. Because I keep my eyes closed. I'm just seeing the whole picture of what happened and everything. So, and then I'll like peek and go, oh, they're already there.
That's happened to us a couple of times.
Oftentimes you and I she'll say something and I'm thinking it, or vice versa while we're doing that, but we get into a zone when we do that. That's right. It's amazing. When you're in that zone, it's really a neat feeling. It really is.
And time goes so fast.
Yeah.
I catch myself, I have to keep one eye on the clock because before I know it, 45 minutes has gone by. I'm like, oh.
That's because you're in the present.
Yeah. It's the best.
When you're in the present, that's when time stops.
Yeah. Well, it is cool.
Mm-hmm.
I look at my role here as a bit of an outsider looking in. And I listened to you say that you were in the corporate world. And there probably wasn't much energy flow or chi or any of that going on in your corporate job.
That is 110% correct. And that's why it became more and more difficult for me to function in that environment.
I kept telling her to quit.
She did. Yes, she did.
You're right, as usual, Terry. As
Always,
usual.
yeah.
I would like for people that are listening to this podcast that are going through life and they're like, this stuff sounds so way out. And that was might have been what you thought as well. Is that right? Back in the day? I
did. I don't want to say I was skeptical, but I was just a little timid about it. I was like, I was raised Catholic.
Right.
My mother said, honey, are you getting into that new age stuff? And there's some pressures from family members and coworkers and things like that, she's gone off the deep end or whatever, but nothing is more real and more gratifying. And you have to experience it to believe it. And it's been good. Yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you, is just that very thing is if someone, we don't try to convince people that what the spirit world is or the other side or any of this stuff. We're not trying to make anybody think anything. But if anyone's listening and they have some thought like, hey, you know what, they sound like they're not too wacky and they're talking about all this stuff so seriously and so genuinely, maybe I should give it a try. Is the best way to contact a Qigong practitioner, medical practitioner?
It is, yes. There's a couple of resources online. There's a YouTube channel that I go to pretty frequently. It's called Alchemical Courtyard.
Say that again, please.
Alchemical Courtyard.
Alchemical.
Like alchemy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, like alchemy, but it's Alchemical Courtyard.
Okay.
He has a lot of really great short takes on some of the Qigong prescriptions that I had talked about.
Right.
So he's got some great foundational exercises people can do. I'm sorry, what was the other question?
How do you contact someone?
How do you contact someone? That's a great question. So,
because we have listeners from all over the country and all over the world. I'm hoping that they'll listen to this and say, man, that sounds pretty cool. I'd like to try it. And we want to make sure that they can connect up with somebody.
Probably one of the best ways would be to contact a school.
Or I just thought of, there is a National Qigong Association.
Oh, good.
So they can just Google the National Qigong Association.
How is Qigong spelled?
Qigong.
Two separate words. Medical Qigong. Medical, Qi, Qi, and then Gong.
Correct.
Okay.
So if you just look up the National Qigong Association, there's a list of practitioners and there's all kinds of resources on their website.
This is something that you have to be in the same place as the practitioner, right?
No, actually, I can do remote healings. I've done people pretty much all over the country. Yeah. So it's the exact same protocol as if you're in the room. And basically, the only difference is I just pull your energetic body into the room and I work on it. And then I give you blessings and I put your energetic body back in your physical body and away we go. And some people actually prefer the remote healings.
Right.
As compared to the physical. I've had people that do both, and it just depends on what they need. Sometimes I'm doing remote this time. I'm really going in. I just want quiet. And other people like the sensory, because I burn sage and there's some music playing and things like that in my studio. So when they feel like that, then they come and see me in person. But yes, you can do remote session.
Do you do pets as well?
I've done some pets. I've done my own pets. I've done my family pets with good success. I don't really advertise it, but sure, if anybody needs some help.
Mm-hmm. I've actually have done that as well. And animals and children both respond very well to energy work.
They do.
They'll come right over to you and cuddle with you.
Yeah.
And they might not even know you. And they'll just, and the people that own them, they're like, wow, Fido's never done that before. Well, Fido's never had an energy treatment before, so.
I've actually worked on some teenage girls.
Oh,
and the
bless
moms,
your heart.
I know.
Danger.
Exactly. And the moms are like, they were getting ready to put them on medication. And one young lady in particular, and she said she just can't believe the difference. There were a lot of anger issues, a lot of anxiety, and we were able to clean that up for her. So children, you're right, young adults or children are very, very receptive.
Mm-hmm.
So how can someone get hold of you?
I can be reached. I can give you my phone number. A text. It's 717-226-3849. I also have a website that I'm launching, www.qigongbychristine.com.
All one word?
Yes. Again, that's Qigong by Christine.com.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Christine with a C.
Yes.
Before we go, I have just one thing I want to ask about is I am really fascinated by past lives. I just really get a kick out of that, and doing a lot of study of it and speaking to a lot of people about it. You had mentioned that sometimes and so did Terry, sometimes past lives come into this. Could you just expand on that for a little bit, please?
Sure. There are times when people are having chronic conditions, like chronic symptoms that they just can't seem to resolve. And, I've tried all the things I know to try.
Right.
And we'll just get quiet with it. And the person that I'm working on needs to be at least open to the concept of past lives.
Okay.
And then I'll start seeing like flashes, or they'll start seeing flashes, and we'll start seeing somebody on a horseback, an arrow in the shoulder, being chained in a dungeon, or, we'll start seeing things that are clearly from a different period. 9 times out of 10, it's associated with whatever symptom they're having. In addition to that, there's behavior patterns that attach themselves to that trauma. So we talk about not just the trauma, but what are the behavior patterns that stem from that trauma. For example, if somebody was persecuted as a witch, they don't want to talk about their spirituality. They don't want to talk about anything of the supernatural. And a lot of times they'll have like thyroid problems because they're closing their throat, right? Throat chakra. So it's interesting how, when you're suppressing your voice, I have this hoarseness all the time, or I've got thyroid problems. So you can sometimes connect it to whatever the trauma was. Then that triggers the behavior pattern that then triggers that, as we were talking about those energetic bodies, right? So you've got turbidity.
Okay.
They've got that chi stuck there. So then that's when I can come in and help them.
And that's because we do carry our emotional body through time.
That's right.
So if you had something traumatic happen to you in another life, you carry that into the next life usually, and it's stuck in your body somewhere. So the regression, you don't really do a regression. You just go in to find maybe how they died or how they were injured, and you pull that out. So it's not like an actual regression.
Right.
You see a flash.
Yeah.
It's just a flash. It's like, oh.
So you're not getting a whole story.
That's correct.
So it wouldn't be like going to a hypnotist or someone like that.
Exactly.
So that's a whole different bag.
But the benefit, the injury in a prior life and the benefit from it, that's real. That's very
My job
real.
is just to bring that trauma to consciousness. I don't explore it. I don't try and then the people start connecting the dots. They're like, oh my gosh, that's why I XYZ, right? That's why I'm having these behavior patterns that are manifesting as physical symptoms.
Yeah, and I've found that it's like it'll hit you at a certain age or different ages, different things can happen from different past lives. But whenever you develop a phantom illness, I think it's a karmic past life issue that you need to deal with now so that you can get it taken care of. And I think a lot of the fibromyalgia issues people that have, because the medical world can't explain it. Well, you have fibromyalgia. Well, I think it's because of past life and the karmic issues,
Okay.
I would agree with that. Yes, because if it's undefined or if traditional treatment's not working, it's something else. And you need to explore that.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting if someone came to you for treatment and then afterwards we were able to discuss it about what did they feel, what happened with them in their body, and then you could tell, with their permission, you could tell about what happened and how it all worked out. And that might make it also much more real to anyone who's thinking about maybe trying it.
Yeah,
would that be okay
sure.
with you?
I'd be fine with that, yeah.
Well, James, have you ever had Qigong?
Not yet.
Another question for you. Suppose somebody wants to unblock their upper chakras, 7th and 8th chakras, and become more enlightened. Can you help with that?
I can. There's a whole protocol in my treatment where I first thing I do is check their chakras. I use my pendulum and I check the chakras and I see, where the blockages are. And I'm going to say 99% of the time, wherever they're blocked is where they're having physical symptoms or emotional. If it's anxiety, it's in the heart. That's an example. Yes, I can help with blocked chakras.
I tell you, those pendulums never lie, do they?
No.
I have one in my purse. I don't leave home without one.
Yeah,
I do too.
Well, I was just doing some editing of the Auras and Chakras episode that we're about to release, and it's all about the pendulum with you guys. It's so fascinating. I had never really heard of a pendulum. And
We got to teach you, James.
Here you are using
Yes,
a pendulum as
it's
well.
a diagnostic tool for me. Yeah. The other thing I didn't mention is that we do use sound and color as well when we treat. Each of the 5 organs that I mentioned, they're the 5 yin organs, we use sound, and each organ also has a color. So it's very unique. It's a very unique treatment.
Terry, anything before we finish up for today?
No, I just think it's really cool. I go to see her once a week,
Oh, wow.
through my chemo treatments and things like that. So, and I definitely think it's helped me, deal with what I'm going through.
Fantastic.
I agree with you because you look great going through your treatments. I mean, a lot of people go through these treatments and they look like death sucking on a lifesaver, but Terry just kept her collar and
She did fantastic.
Everything.
She did.
You wouldn't know unless you looked at my bald head.
it'll grow back now because you had your last treatment. So
We're talking about treatment. Is it okay to say what kind of treatment, Terry? It's a chemotherapy treatment. Well, thank you so much, Christine.
Thank
really
you.
fascinating.
Thank you for having
I'm sure
me.
there's a lot that we didn't get into, but it would be wonderful if you came back another time.
I would love to.
Well, we do want to do some on-the-road stuff, James. We keep telling you. So
I hear you.
We'll go to Christine's and throw you on the table.
Yeah, we
yeah.
can do it. We can do a live treatment. We can record
all
it.
3 of us will get on and treat him with
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
We'll have to peel them off the ceiling.
You'll be like
We
a
like
limp
to have fun with you, James.
the wet rag to wring you out when we're done with you. You'll be so relaxed.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And you do. You become very relaxed after treatments like that.
You do. Well, that's why the regulation is so important at the end. Kind of get you back.
So
Get you back in your body. Yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
As I said before, I am going to get rid of my turgid chi, and I intend to do so right on this podcast. That'll be fun. Our next episode on November 28th will be our first international interview. We're going to talk with Chris Rush, a best-selling horror writer from the eastern coast of Ireland. He's a lead investigator with Paranormal Researchers Ireland. Please listen to this very charming and genuine Irish man. In December, on December 12th, we'll feature Dr. Charlie Curtis. He will introduce us to a technique that involves some of the same energetic meridians that are used in acupuncture, but without the use of needles. Instead, there's a use of tapping on certain locations on the face and body. This will be the first of at least 3 episodes that'll give our listeners a chance to learn about an incredibly powerful procedure called EFT, Emotional Freedom Techniques. We could all benefit from it. Terry, Rhonda, and I hope that you and your families will enjoy a very happy and healthy Thanksgiving. We'll be back with you on November 28th with an Irish author, Chris Rush. Until then.